Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new season of Nostalgia Trip, where we go for a ride and we ask the age-old question: do the games of our childhood hold up? Will the trip down memory lane be a good one, or will it be something we won't be visiting anytime soon? I'm your host Guaka, and today we're looking at the one, the only, Ultimate Spider-Man. So grab your web shooters and make sure Uncle Ben is... Oh shit, I left him in the middle of the bloody street.
Uncle Ben? Uncle Ben? Uncle Ben?
Stop fucking crying, bitch! Where? I don't wanna fucking hear it! Stop fucking...
Ultimate Spider-Man. This is one of my most vivid memories in terms of PS2 gameplays. Back in the year of 2005, I was gifted this game from my neighbors actually. I remember it being this really difficult game but super expansive and a great combat and awesome mechanics. Honestly, it was the whole package of the ideal Spider-Man game. But since Ultimate Spider-Man's released, we've had a few absolute banger Spider-Man games. So I've been wondering recently, how does Ultimate Spider-Man stack up after all these years? Well, let's go on a trip, fellas. I guess you could say, story of Ultimate Spider-Man is pretty simple. Apparently, I shit you not, Peter and Eddie's dad were scientists together and believed Venom was the cure for cancer.
I believe the suit may be the final step. Finally, a cure for cancer.
Also, Spider-Man had it before the game started. Man, I wish I got to play that version of Spidey.
Ah! What's happening to me? Get this off of me!
The game starts off also with Peter fighting Eddie, and throughout the game, it's pretty much just a cat and mouse game to find Eddie. You get a few cutscenes sprinkle in, and we gotta capture him. The cutscenes themselves are also a bit awkward in their delivery, especially with some strange voice lines that even the VAs sound weirded out as they say them.
You done with my butt? Yet.
The unique draw to this game, I guess you could say, is that the story is actually told from two perspectives. You get to play as both Spider-Man and Venom, and you'll slowly piece together the entire narrative as you switch between both of them. I honestly wish I could write more on the story, but I just cannot remember anything because it just felt so goofy. Instead, let's talk about something the game is irradiated with: style. It's very easy to see that this game is absolutely dripping with style. This was made during the Ultimate Spider-Man comic run, so yep, it's got the same style as that and it looks great. Honestly, the cell shading and the goofy characters look really good, actually better than I remember. The great part about this game's presentation as well is that the cutscenes are presented in this comic book style, and after all these years, it really looks super good. It's also all the little details too, like the way Venom climbs up walls and leaves footprints. You know, I bet this would look amazing on my Spider-Man CRT, which I had back in the day. It even had a freaking built-in DVD player. What happened to that bloody thing? The UI as well is pretty nice, with a comic book style. It's got an aesthetic to it that matches the entire game. Something I don't like as much as I remember though is the city. That's probably more of a hardware limitation than the developer's fault though. It's still great to swing around and it's a blast. Speaking of swinging around, let's talk about the two ways in which you experience this game: in the shoes of the web slingers and while you're inside Venom.
Hold up.
The gameplay of Spidey is, well, what you'd expect from any Spider-Man game we've had. It's a simple little open world. You do collectibles, do a bit of combat, web slinging, and crime fighting. Let's start off with the web slinging, which is not as good as I remember. Especially at the beginning, it feels super duper rough, because you're only using one button to web sling, which is R2. So it feels a bit lopsided when you first start off. I prefer having L2 and R2, one for left hand and one for right hand. Once you get used to it though, it's actually not bad. It's really like riding a bike, honestly. Watching Spider-Man do flips, you know, running across walls and ziplining, it's pretty damn satisfying. Now, all these mechanics I feel like are wasted on one of the main things you do as Spider-Man, which are the races. They do not utilize web slinging very well. The races are really short and tight, and it feels like there's no room to breathe for movement. On the other end of the spectrum though, the bastard pants himself, the Human Torch. His races are actually quite intense and I feel pretty damn fair. They utilize a good amount of space and they actually provide a decent challenge. This guy annoys the absolute crap out of me because he's so cocky. Like, bro, you can fly. Of course you're gonna win most of the time. What makes it so worse is one time I was racing him and I was so damn close to winning.
Let me do this. Let me do this. Yes! 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 No! 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 Fuck! Shit!
Let's move on to the combat though, which also is pretty damn great and holds up well. It's action based and very snappy. You'll be pummeling dudes and then webbing them up once they're defeated. The combat itself is super flashy and very responsive. You can do cool stuff like bouncing off walls and grabbing enemies, webbing up dudes and then Goomba stomping them, all sorts of great stuff. It's awesome, but if this game was any longer, I could see the combat getting pretty stale. There's no real difficulty in terms of fighting your common enemies, just a few hits and a web every time. It works well enough, I guess, but it's nothing major to write, even though I just wrote about it, I'm stupid. Coming back to it though after all these years, it's definitely a lot easier than I remember. I find that happens a lot with games that I played as a kid. You know what isn't easy though? Watching Spider-Man in some of these cutscenes, like when he walked away with that iconic exaggerated swagger.
I need.
And also when he gets absolutely slapped by a rhino.
Is that a rhinoceros horn, or you just happen to be to see? I'm so scared.
Your
I
life
can't
literally
finish my lame joke.
is as valuable as a summer ant.
Oh yeah, Rhino. So, okay, something pretty cool about this game is the boss segments. There are a few missions which involve you chasing a boss through New York, saving civilians along the way, and then you confront the boss at the end. Now, some bosses like Rhino are pretty sick, and they've got some great mechanics and cheeky puzzle elements to their bosses. Others you feel are super janky, like this guy. I didn't even bother to learn his name because he was so annoying, because you got to hit him in the air like he's a damn mosquito, and you're on a tall building and there's no space to maneuver, and if you fall, it's over. So you just end up getting wrecked over and over and over. The Venom and Spidey fights are definitely a great highlight though, especially this one where he literally yeets you. These segments, while cool and visually are really nice, they do get a bit repetitive, especially because there's only a dozen or so missions in the entire game, including Venom and Spidey missions combined, and all of them are either tutorial missions for the side objectives like racing, or these chase scenes and boss battles. Now you might be thinking, damn, these missions must be pretty beefy if the game's only a few hours and there's a dozen or so missions. Well, that's unfortunately where you're wrong. A lot of this game is spent doing those races I mentioned earlier. There are a couple other things you can do though, like combat tours, which is a quick gauntlet of enemies which can be pretty fun, but the absolute highlight are the city crimes. You get to stop robberies, stop out of control cars, stop people from falling. It's a classic crime stopping we've come to know and love in the Spidey gameplay type. My favorite is definitely stopping guys from falling, because after you save them, you have to web swing down to the ground, and because you can't control when you're doing flips as Spider-Man, you just know Spidey gives this poor civilian vertigo for the next 9 months.
Just a minute, you're okay. You're okay, we're okay. We're okay! Somebody will be here in a second, we're okay! We're okay.
Once you've done a handful of these though, which takes around 20 or 30 minutes, the next mission continues. Then once it's done, it's off to collect more. Lather, rinse, repeat. The game does offer some other rewards though, like costumes and comic book covers to browse through, but it's just not as good. The first costume you unlock as well is just so lazy. It's just the Spidey outfit without the logo, and it's supposed to be the wrestling outfit. Like, I know there's some cool ones I remember unlocking as a kid, like Peter Parker or like the actual black Spidey suit, but I just cannot be bothered to get them. Honestly, I think this game would definitely overstay its welcome if it was any longer, but it does have one trick up its sleeve that helps keep it fresh. That is switching to Venom. The Venom parts of the game are the parts I have the most vivid memories of when I was a kid, and I'm happy to say that they still hold up. Venom actually controls very different from Spidey. He's a bit slower and he has big jumps instead of web slinging. He also has this health drain mechanic where you have to munch on people to keep fighting. The way you get introduced to this mechanic as well, by the way, is by devouring a child, which honestly I did not remember as a kid, but it's really funny. It can get a bit tedious at times, but it definitely makes the Venom section seem a lot more intense in terms of urgency and having that extra mechanic to combine with all the other stuff. The city as well, I think looks better at night because of the lights and stuff like that. I feel like it's more interesting to look at, and it complements the art style super well. Venom also has awesome combat with lots of good range attacks. He can throw cars, slam people into the ground, and my favorite, just throwing them as far as you can possibly throw them.
Don't kill me!
The boss fights of Venom are also really cool. The highlight of the game for me personally is Venom's first level, where you get into a bar brawl with Wolverine, which I forgot and was an awesome surprise. He looks so damn awesome in this game too, Wolverine that is, and I wish he got an Ultimate Game spin-off as well. My favorite was definitely slamming Wolverine's face into the ground, which just looks so sick, and I literally said oof in real life when I saw this.
Bad idea, bub.
The other boss fight I really loved was Carnage. It was pretty intense and you had to chase him through corridors, trying to pry these doors open while he's healing himself, which by the way, for some reason was really difficult, but it added to the game, you know, added to that sense of urgency that the Venom levels give you. Oh yeah, the bosses, by the way, and the way they're set out are quite similar to the way Spider-Man's bosses are set out. Most of them are some kind of chase segment where you have to follow them, or because you're Venom, you're the one being chased and you have to escape. The Venom levels definitely feel pretty fun and fleshed out. It just really sucks that you can't actually free roam as him until you finish the game. Once his level is done, it's back to Spidey to go through more web orbs, more races, and collect more tokens. At least you can play as him afterwards though, and you can just wreak as much havoc as you desire. You know, all in all, Ultimate Spider-Man was definitely not the game I remember as a kid, both in good and bad ways. While the game was way shorter and nowhere near as fleshed out as I remember it being, combat, art style, and controls still honestly hold up quite well. I'd love to see a sequel of some kind, or maybe some kind of beefed up fan mod version or something. This game was always highly regarded as one of the greatest Spider-Man games, and I can see why. Yes, it's lacking in content, but something about it just draws you to it. You know, seeing Spidey swing in that art style, getting that next token, you know, seeing what funny thing you're going to do to a civilian. It's definitely a game you can just keep revisiting from time to time and just hop in and enjoy. And you know what that means, don't you? Yep, I am happy to say I can 100% recommend Ultimate Spider-Man as living up to the memory. It's a great time, honestly, and even if you did play it back in the day, it's worth playing now, especially if you can grab it super cheap. Now, the price of Ultimate Spider-Man kind of fluctuates, but at the moment it's not too bad. Each console, the copy is generally around 30 to 50 bucks, with GameCube always having that Nintendo tax of an extra 10 to 20 bucks. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed this epic return to Nostalgia Trip. If you want to ride shotgun with me again, hit that subscribe, and tell me where we should drive to next. I've been your host, Guaka, but before I go, I gotta remind you to keep shredding. See ya!
It's just
What?
Eddie. I mean, he's out there. And I don't know if I'm scared of him or for him.